Seth Rollins reacts after Becky Lynch confronts Paul Heyman on Raw. This is absolutely unacceptable. Becky Lynch just confronted Paul Heyman in the most intense backstage segment we've seen in years, and Seth Rollins' reaction is causing massive controversy and dividing the wrestling world. What Becky said to Heyman was explosive, but what Seth did after is making fans question everything about their marriage and whether WWE just crossed a line they can never come back from. If you think WWE is exploiting Seth and Becky's real-life relationship for ratings, destroy that like button and tell me in the comments if this storyline is brilliant or disgusting. This situation has the entire wrestling community in chaos, and I'm breaking down every controversial moment. Let's go! Last night's Raw featured one of the most uncomfortable segments in recent memory. Paul Heyman was in his temporary office backstage, presumably handling business for his various clients, when Becky Lynch burst through the door unannounced. The camera work was perfect, handheld, shaky, making it feel real and unscripted. Becky's face showed pure rage as she stormed into the office. "Heyman!" Becky's voice cut through the office like a knife. "We need to talk about my husband." Paul Heyman looked genuinely startled. Whether that was character work or legitimate surprise, it was effective. He stood up from his desk, raising his hands defensively. "Rebecca, please, let's be civil about Heyman," began, but Becky wasn't having it. "Civil?" Becky got right in Heyman's face. "You want to talk about civil? Let's talk about how you've been manipulating the tournament. How you've been pulling strings to make sure Roman Reigns gets every advantage. How you've been destroying my husband's legacy." This was intense. Becky was bringing real emotion to this confrontation. Heyman tried to maintain composure. "Mrs. Lynch Rollins, I assure you, I have no idea what you're don't." Becky pointed her finger in Heyman's face. "Don't you dare lie to me. Seth lost his championship because of injury. An injury he got because WWE worked him to the bone. And now you're setting up this tournament like Roman deserves a free pass to the title?" The accusations were flying. This wasn't just about the tournament, this was about Seth's entire situation. Seth gave everything to this company. Becky's voice cracked with emotion. He defended the championship against everyone. He worked through pain. He sacrificed his body. And what does he get? Stripped of his title while Roman Reigns, who works part-time, gets handed a tournament spot? Heyman's expression shifted from defensive to calculated. "Becky, I understand you're emotional right now, but emotional." Becky's voice rose to almost a scream. "You're damn right I'm emotional. My husband is at home with a broken body while you play politics with championships. My husband is watching the tournament he should be in, knowing that his injury is being exploited for storylines." Then Becky said something that made everyone watching uncomfortable, and the worst part? Seth is sitting at home questioning if he should even come back. Because why should he? Why should he destroy his body for a company that replaces him in seconds? The reference to Seth potentially retiring was jarring. Was this real concern or storyline? The line was blurred. Heyman finally got a word in. "Becky, your husband is one of the greatest, save it." Becky cut him off. "I didn't come here for your fake compliments. I came here to tell you this: stay away from Seth. Don't call him. Don't text him. Don't even think about trying to recruit him for your schemes. Because I won't let you destroy what's left of his body for Roman's glory." With that, Becky stormed out, leaving Heyman standing there looking shaken. The segment ended with Heyman's face, a mix of surprise and calculation. Quick question for the comments: was Becky out of line or completely justified? Here's where things got controversial. Later in the show, Seth Rollins appeared via video call from his home, and his reaction to Becky's confrontation shocked everyone. Seth appeared on screen, still wearing the neck brace, looking frustrated but not in the way you'd expect. The interviewer asked Seth, "Your wife Becky Lynch just confronted Paul Heyman on your behalf. Your thoughts?" Seth took a long pause, his jaw clenched, clearly struggling with what to say. "Look, I love my wife. I love Becky more than anything in this world, but she had no right to do what she just did." What? The wrestling world collectively gasped. Seth was criticizing Becky's defense of him? Becky going after Paul Heyman on my behalf? Seth continued, his voice tight with frustration. "That's not what I wanted. That's not what I asked for. I'm a grown man. I can fight my own battles. I don't need my wife defending me like I'm some helpless victim." The masculinity and ego on display were palpable. This was hitting different because it felt real. "Do you understand how that makes me look?" Seth's frustration grew. The former WWE champion, the former Mr. Money in the Bank, the visionary, having his wife fight his battles? That's embarrassing. That's emasculating. That's not who I am. The interviewer tried to interject, but Seth, "Isn't she just protecting? I don't need protection." Seth interrupted. "I'm injured, I'm not dead. I'm not finished. And having Becky storm around Raw like some angry wife seeking revenge on my behalf? That makes me look weak." Then Seth said something that made the situation even more uncomfortable. "Becky and I are going to have a serious conversation when this interview is done. Because she crossed a line. She involved herself in my business, my career, my situation with WWE, and she did it without consulting me. The tension was off the charts. This felt like a real marital dispute playing out on WWE programming. Paul Heyman isn't the enemy. Seth continued. Roman Reigns isn't the enemy. The enemy is my own body that broke down, and I don't need Becky creating more enemies on my behalf. Seth's final words were pointed. I appreciate that my wife cares, but she needs to let me handle my career. Because this isn't helping. This is making everything worse. The video cut out, leaving everyone watching stunned. Did Seth just publicly admonish his real-life wife on WWE programming? The wrestling world and even mainstream media exploded following Seth's response. Social media became a war zone of opinions. Let me break down the reactions. Becky was defending her husband and Seth threw her under the bus. This is disgusting. She was standing up for him when no one else would. This sentiment was everywhere among Becky's fans. Seth's male ego is showing. Becky did what any spouse would do, protect their partner. And Seth's response is to publicly embarrass her? Fans calling out perceived sexism. If Seth had defended Becky like that, everyone would call him a hero. But when Becky does it, Seth calls her embarrassing? Double standard. The gender politics were intense. Becky Lynch is the man. She doesn't need Seth's approval to speak her mind. He should be grateful he has someone who cares that much. Support for Becky's autonomy. Seth is right. Becky overstepped. He's a grown man who doesn't need his wife fighting his battles. This is about his pride. Fans siding with Seth's perspective. Can you imagine if the roles were reversed? If Seth went after someone on Becky's behalf without asking her first? She'd be furious too. The reverse scenario argument. Seth has earned the right to handle his own career. Becky's heart was in the right place, but she should have talked to him first. The communication issue. Everyone calling Seth sexist doesn't understand. This isn't about gender, it's about respect. Becky should respect Seth's wishes about his own career. Defending Seth against sexism accusations. Both of them are right and both are wrong. Becky's intentions were good but her execution was flawed. Seth's feelings are valid but his public response was harsh. Trying to find balance. This feels like a real married couple disagreement. They're both coming from places of love but approaching it differently. Acknowledging the complexity. WWE is exploiting their real marriage for storylines and it's making everyone uncomfortable. This is the problem. Blaming WWE for the situation. Multiple current and former wrestlers weighed in on Twitter. Mick Foley tweeted, "Marriage is complicated. Wrestling careers are complicated. Putting them together on TV? That's a recipe for very uncomfortable television." Natalia posted, "Supporting your spouse's career while respecting their independence is a delicate balance. I feel for both Seth and Becky right now." CM Punk, always stirring the pot, tweeted, "Remember when WWE kept my real life separate from storylines? Oh wait, they didn't. Good luck, Seth and Becky." Even mainstream sports media picked it up. ESPN's wrestling coverage ran a segment titled "When Real Life and Wrestling Collide, the Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch Controversy." The hashtags #Team Becky and #Team Seth were both trending worldwide. This transcended wrestling fandom. What's your take? Are you Team Becky or Team Seth? Comment below. The situation created immediate backstage drama. Multiple segments throughout the rest of Raw showed various wrestlers weighing in and taking sides. Cameras caught several women's wrestlers discussing the situation in their locker room. Rhea Ripley, "Becky did what she had to do. If someone was disrespecting Dominic's career, I'd do the same thing. That's what partners do." Liv Morgan countered, "But did Seth ask her to do that? That's the question. You can't just insert yourself into someone's career without permission, even if you're married." Natalia added thoughtfully, "I've been in this business with my husband. The line between support and overstepping is thin. It's easy to cross without realizing it." Shayna Baszler cut through the debate, "Here's what I know. In a fight, you want someone who has your back. Becky had Seth's back. If he's too proud to appreciate that, that's his problem." The women were divided, reflecting the broader fan split. In the men's locker room, the conversation had a different tone. Drew McIntyre, "I respect Seth's position. When you're a competitor at his level, you want to fight your own battles. Having someone else fight for you, even with good intentions, can feel like they don't think you're capable." GUSO offered his take, "Man, family is complicated. I know about family drama. Sometimes the people who love you most can cause the biggest problems trying to help." Damian Priest said, "Paul Heyman is a snake. Becky was right to confront him. Seth should be thanking her, not criticizing her publicly." LA Knight, "Yeah, let me talk to ya." Seth Rollins is dealing with some real issues. This is about more than wrestling, this is about pride, about how a man sees himself. And having your wife fight your battles, regardless of good intentions, challenges that. Yeah, Later in the show, Heyman was interviewed about the situation. "I want to make something very clear." Heyman began with his trademark intensity. "I have nothing but respect for Becky Lynch. She is an incredible competitor, a Hall of Fame talent, and clearly a devoted wife. But," Heyman's tone shifted, "her accusations against me are baseless. I am not manipulating the tournament. I am not destroying Seth Rollins' legacy. I am simply advocating for my clients, as I have done for 40 years. Then Heyman addressed Seth directly. "Seth, I understand you're frustrated. I understand your pride is wounded. But let me offer you some advice from someone who's been in this business longer than you've been alive. Your wife loves you. She was trying to protect you. Don't let your ego damage what you have at home." The relationship advice from Paul Heyman of all people felt surreal but was delivered with seeming sincerity. To understand why this situation is so loaded, we need to look at Seth and Becky's history, both individually and as a couple. Because this isn't happening in a vacuum. Throughout his career, Seth has dealt with pride and ego storylines. When he betrayed the Shield, it was about ego and ambition. When he was Monday Night Rollins, it was about proving he was the guy. Seth has always been sensitive about how he's perceived. His comments about Becky making him look weak fit perfectly into his character history. Seth's entire persona is built on being the best, the architect, the visionary. Having someone fight for him contradicts that self-image. Becky's rise to the man was about refusing to let anyone push her around. She fought for everything she achieved. Her confronting Heyman is consistent with her character. She sees injustice and she acts. But Becky has also had storylines about being too aggressive, too confrontational. Her fiery personality has gotten her in trouble before. This could be another example. Seth and Becky's real-life relationship became public in 2019. They got engaged and married. They have a child together. Their relationship has always been somewhat public. WWE has used their relationship in storylines before, including when Becky was pregnant and Seth was in character work. The line between real life and kayfabe has been blurred repeatedly. This creates an interesting dynamic. Are we watching Seth Rollins the character or Colby Lopez the person responding? Is this Becky Lynch the character or Rebecca Quinn the person fighting for her husband? The ambiguity is intentional and makes this compelling but also uncomfortable. Seth's injury and forced title vacation is the catalyst for all of this. If Seth was healthy and in the tournament, none of this happens. His injury has left him feeling helpless, and Becky's actions, while well-intentioned, reinforce that helplessness. From a psychological perspective, Seth is dealing with loss of his championship, loss of his role in WWE, loss of his physical capabilities. Becky trying to fix things for him might feel like she's treating him as broken. This is deep, psychological storytelling if done right, but it's also potentially exploitative if done wrong. Let's talk about something unprecedented in WWE, a storyline actively exploring real marriage dynamics between two superstars. This is risky territory. Every marriage deals with this. How do you support your spouse while respecting their independence? Where's the line between helping and overstepping? This is universal relationship territory. Becky sees Seth hurting, physically and emotionally, and wants to fix it. That's a natural spouse response. But Seth wants to maintain his autonomy and handle things himself. That's a natural response too. Neither is wrong. They're just approaching the situation from different perspectives. The conflict comes from lack of communication. The fact that this disagreement is playing out publicly is the problem. Most couples have disagreements in private. Seth and Becky's disagreement is happening on WWE television in front of millions. Seth's public criticism of Becky feels harsh because it's public. If he'd said the same things to her privately, it would be a normal marital discussion. But doing it on camera adds a layer of humiliation. Similarly, Becky confronting Heyman about Seth's situation without consulting him first is different because it's public. She's making statements about his career and feelings without his input in front of the world. There's no avoiding this. Gender plays a role in how the storyline is perceived. If Seth had confronted someone on Becky's behalf, many would see it as protecting his wife. But Becky doing it for Seth is seen by some as emasculating. This double standard is real and WWE is either brilliantly exploring it or thoughtlessly perpetuating it. The verdict depends on how they resolve this storyline. Seth and Becky have managed to balance their wrestling careers with marriage and parenthood. That's difficult. This storyline is adding stress to that balance. How do you separate work disagreements from personal relationship issues when your work is your relationship storyline? It's meta and complicated. At the core, this is about trust. Does Seth trust Becky's judgment? Does Becky trust Seth to handle his own affairs? Do they trust each other to communicate about these big decisions? The lack of communication between them is the real problem. Becky should have talked to Seth before confronting Heyman. Seth should have talked to Becky before publicly criticizing her. WWE is holding up a mirror to real relationship dynamics. It's uncomfortable because it's real. Do you think Seth and Becky should keep their marriage out of storylines? Comment yes or no. Let's address the elephant in the room. Is WWE crossing ethical lines by using Seth and Becky's real marriage for storylines? This is generating serious debate. Critics argue that WWE is exploiting a real marriage for ratings, that using genuine relationship dynamics as entertainment is wrong, that there are some things that should remain private. WWE is playing with fire, one wrestling journalist wrote. What happens if this storyline damages their real relationship? Is a pop worth risking a marriage? The concern is that blurring the lines between real life and kayfabe creates genuine problems. What if Seth and Becky start having real issues because of manufactured storyline conflicts? Supporters argue that Seth and Becky are professionals who chose this. They're adults who can decide what to share publicly. They presumably approved this storyline. Becky and Seth have agency, defenders say. They're not victims. They made a business decision to use their relationship as content. That's their right. The assumption is that both Seth and Becky worked with WWE to craft this storyline, that it's all planned and they're comfortable with it. WWE has used real relationships before with mixed results. Edge and Lita's real relationship became storyline content, with very controversial results. Triple H and Stephanie McMahon's real marriage has been used countless times. Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth's real relationship was storyline gold. Sometimes it works beautifully, sometimes it's exploitative and uncomfortable. The difference is usually in execution and consent. Let's be honest, this storyline is getting attention. Social media is buzzing. Mainstream media is covering it. People are talking about WWE. From a business perspective, controversy creates cash. If this storyline drives viewership and engagement, WWE considers it a success regardless of ethical concerns. The biggest question: how does WWE resolve this in a way that's satisfying? Do Seth and Becky reconcile? Does one of them admit they were wrong? Does the storyline just quietly drop? The resolution will determine whether this was brilliant storytelling or exploitative garbage. Let's not forget Paul Heyman's role in all this. He's the catalyst for Becky's confrontation, and his response has been calculating. Heyman is brilliant at manipulation. He's positioning himself as the reasonable party. He respects Becky. He understands Seth. He's playing sympathy while still serving his client's interests. This is classic Heyman. He's turning a situation where he was attacked into one where he looks like the mature adult. Masterful. Don't forget, Heyman's advocacy for Roman is what triggered Becky in the first place. Roman being in the tournament while Seth sits at home is the root issue. Heyman defending Roman's tournament position while offering Seth relationship advice is peak hypocrisy. He's causing the problem while pretending to solve it. What is Heyman really trying to accomplish? Is he genuinely trying to help? Or is he manipulating Seth's vulnerability to potentially recruit him? Some fans speculate that Heyman's advice to Seth is actually a long-term recruitment pitch. Your wife doesn't understand you. WWE doesn't appreciate you. But I do. Come work with me. That would be diabolical but very Heyman. From Heyman's point of view, he's just doing his job. He advocates for his clients. If that means Roman gets advantages, so be it. He's not responsible for Seth's injury or Becky's feelings. Heyman's moral ambiguity is what makes him compelling. Is he the villain or just a businessman? The answer is both. So where does this storyline go from here? Let me map out the possible directions WWE could take. Seth and Becky have an emotional conversation, probably on Raw or SmackDown, where they apologize to each other. Seth admits he overreacted. Becky admits she should have consulted him. They hug it out. This is the safe option that resolves conflict without controversy, but it might feel rushed and unsatisfying. Seth and Becky's disagreement escalates. They have more public arguments. Their relationship becomes a major storyline throughout Seth's recovery. This extends the storyline but risks alienating fans who are uncomfortable with the marital conflict. Seth and Becky realize they're stronger together. They join forces against Heyman and Roman. Seth returns to help Becky, and Becky helps Seth get revenge. This transforms the conflict into a team-up story. US against the world angle. The nuclear option: Seth and Becky take a break from each other. Not divorce, but storyline separation where they need space to figure things out. This would be massive heat but potentially too controversial even for WWE. Heyman successfully drives a wedge between Seth and Becky. He recruits Seth by convincing him that Becky doesn't respect him. Seth turns heel and joins Heyman's stable. This would be shocking and create long-term storytelling opportunities. I think we get a modified option 3. Seth and Becky have one more confrontation where they air grievances. Then they realize Heyman and Roman are the real problems. They unite against common enemies. Seth returns from injury to help Becky in a match. Becky helps Seth get revenge on whoever eliminates Roman from the tournament. They become wrestling's power couple fighting together. This satisfies multiple storyline needs, resolves their conflict, keeps them both strong characters, and creates new rivalries. What's your prediction? Drop your booking ideas in the comments. Beyond the storyline, what are the real-life implications for Seth and Becky? Seth and Becky's relationship has been largely positive in the public eye. They're seen as a power couple who support each other. This storyline tests that perception. Depending on how fans interpret this, it could either make them more relatable, every couple argues, or damage their relationship goals status. Will this storyline affect how other wrestlers view Seth and Becky? Will locker room dynamics change? Some wrestlers might respect them for committing so fully to a difficult storyline. Others might think they're making a mistake. How does this affect their individual careers? Does the controversy help or hurt their positioning? For Becky, this could reinforce her man persona as someone who takes action, or it could make her seem interfering and overstep her bounds. For Seth, this could make him seem proud and independent, or it could make him seem ungrateful and harsh. Seth and Becky have a child at home. How does this public conflict affect their family life? Presumably, they're professional enough to separate work from home, but the blurred lines might create stress. If this storyline is successful, does WWE do more relationship storylines with married couples? Do other wrestling couples become targets? Alternatively, if this backfires, does WWE learn to keep real relationships off television? The biggest question, will this storyline affect their real marriage? Presumably, Seth and Becky have discussed this thoroughly. They're both experienced performers who understand the business. They know it's fake. But even with that understanding, performing relationship conflict repeatedly might create actual tension. It's human nature. The hope is that they're strong enough personally to navigate this professionally. But it's a legitimate concern. Let me give you my take on this entire situation. The initial confrontation between Becky and Heyman was fire. The emotion felt real. The accusations had weight. It created immediate investment. Seth's response was unexpected and generated massive discussion. Whether you agree with him or not, it made people talk. The storyline touches on real relationship dynamics that couples face. The support versus independence conflict is universal and relatable. The ambiguity between real life and kayfabe creates intrigue. People don't know where the line is, which keeps them guessing. The storyline might be too uncomfortable. Some fans don't want to watch real marital conflict even if it's performed. WWE didn't adequately prepare fans for this type of storyline. The shift from fun power couple to relationship conflict was jarring. There's no clear resolution path that satisfies everyone. Whatever direction they take, some fans will be disappointed. The exploitation concern is valid. Even with Seth and Becky's consent, using their real marriage feels ethically questionable to many. This storyline is either genius or terrible with very little middle ground. It's high-risk, high-reward storytelling. If WWE sticks the landing with a satisfying resolution, this could be remembered as innovative and compelling. If they botch it, it'll be remembered as exploitative and uncomfortable. The controversy itself proves the storyline is working from an engagement perspective. But is engagement at any cost worth it? My personal opinion? I'm fascinated by the storyline but also concerned about the implications. I want to see where it goes, but I'm worried about the destination. WWE is playing with fire. Let's hope they don't get burned. Wrestling newsletter family, Seth Rollins reacting to Becky Lynch confronting Paul Heyman has created the most controversial couple storyline in years. This isn't just wrestling drama, this is relationship dynamics played out on a global stage. Becky Lynch defended her husband with passion and intensity. Whether she was right or wrong, her motivations came from love and protection. That's undeniable. Seth Rollins responded with pride and independence. Whether his public criticism was justified or harsh, his feelings are valid. He wants to fight his own battles. Paul Heyman is playing puppet master, manipulating the situation while looking like the reasonable party. Classic Heyman brilliance. The wrestling world is divided on this storyline. Some love it, some hate it, but everyone is talking about it. That's WWE's goal. The real question is, where does this go? How do Seth and Becky reconcile? What's the endgame? We'll find out in the coming weeks. I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments. Team Becky or Team Seth? Did WWE cross a line using their real marriage? How should this storyline end? Rate this storyline 1 to 10. If you think Becky was right to confront Heyman, smash that like button. If you think Seth's response was justified, hit that like button too. Subscribe to Wrestling Newsletter for daily updates on this developing situation. Share this video with everyone who needs to see this controversy. This is the most talked about wrestling storyline right now. Hit that notification bell for every update. Final question, should married wrestling couples keep their relationships out of storylines? Give me your honest opinion in the comments. This has been Wrestling Newsletter, and remember, professional wrestling is at its most compelling when it touches on real emotions and relationships. But it's also at its most dangerous. Seth and Becky are walking a tightrope. Let's hope WWE doesn't let them fall. Until next time, stay passionate, stay invested, and never stop demanding wrestling that makes you feel something. Peace out.